Hello friends, today I'm going to demonstrate to you return to supplier process, which is RTV. Some people call RTV return to vendor. Okay, let's deep dive into the definition and agenda of this session. Now let's understand what is returns. Now it is the process of moving the material received in the warehouse back to the supplier or customer or receiving. Now there are prerequisites when you can apply the return or when you can't apply the return basically. So the first of all is you should have a receipt done prior to processing the returns, and there are quite few important aspects of these returning receipts are eligibility on return, what kind of a quantity basically, so your quantity should not be less than zero, lot and serial information, sub inventories or locator information, debit memos creation, which I'll be showing you like where exactly the checkbox needs to be ticked actually, so that debit memos is getting created when you are processing the returns processing, transfer orders, and there is another aspect of this is going to be like sending supplier for credit. That's also going to be discussed in this particular session. The main key eligibility criteria you have to make sure you have to remember is the purchase order status should not be in cancelled or a final close status, and you should match unordered receipts before they can be returned. And the last bullet point is returned quantity should not be less than the ordered quantity. So our agenda of today's session is to create a purchase order, then we'll create a receipt against that purchase order. We will create payable invoice against that purchase order. Then we'll initiate the return to the supplier process. We'll do the create shipment because if the item is shippable item, you need to go through the shipment process. And then we'll ensure the automatic creation of debit memo has happened. And then we'll also touch base on return for credit on the explanation basically. Let's log into Oracle Fusion and go to procurement workbench. Before we start creating the purchase order or receipting, you need to come to the supplier and set the RTV flag so that the debit memo can be created. I'm just searching my supplier which I've created. Yeah, this is a supplier which I've created and will be creating the purchase order against this supplier. You need to come to sites. Under purchasing, if you scroll down little bit, you'll find this checkbox. If you don't tick this checkbox, your debit memo won't get created if the goods are returned to the supplier. Okay, so this is a checkbox which is going to be playing a vital role. Now let's create the purchase order. Okay, so you need to add your purchase order lines. I'm selecting the goods because these are the inventory items. The moment you selecting the goods, it will ask you for the item, and this is my inventory item. I'm going to order two quantities or keep it three quantities. Yeah. location where I want to deliver these goods. I need to come to schedule, but these dates are going to be playing a vital role. So you need to enter the dates when exactly you want to receive the goods. Now I have set the receipt tolerance quite high. Otherwise, what will happen is if you're trying to receive the goods earlier than the requested date or promised delivery date, it won't it won't get accepted. Destination type is inventory, and you need to select the request. Do you have a shipping method? So I can select the shipping method as well. Okay, and these are the one more point actually I wanted to set is receipt routing. Quantity. Is there anything else I can put? Yeah, so I've set this tolerance in days basically, so I can receive earlier receipt tolerance, which is like 10 days before the receipt date, or the late after 10 days as well, actually, but it's going to be accepted. And instead of like inspection four-way matching, I'm just going to select the standard or direct delivery. Direct delivery is more of a like it will directly come into your inventory, sub-inventory basically. You don't have to do the put away basically. If you are selecting the standard receipt, that means you have to do the put away as well. So there are two different transactions. Whereas if you're doing the inspection required, then there becomes the three transactions. You have to receive the goods first, do the inspection, and then put away those receipts into the sub inventory. Okay, I'm just going to press the submit button and wait for the approval to happen. Okay, so it has been submitted for approval. Let's wait. Right, so we have received this notification. Let's approve. So now since we have approved this purchase order, we'll just quickly check this purchase order. Okay, so this purchase order is open for the receipting. So now we'll do the receipting process. So let's do the receipting process. Now you can do the receipting using my receipts. Now since we are our purchase order says the receipting routing should be direct. Now if you are selecting that as a direct, you don't require put away into your sub inventory. It is uh, automatically updated into the inventory. So you can, for the direct delivery, you can directly come to my receipts. Otherwise, you'll have to go through the supply chain orchestration. I'll show you that as well, actually. I'll quickly this one, my receipt first, and you can see. Okay, let me log in as Cassie Brown because I've used Cassie Brown as a. Okay, so you can see like you can do the receipting over here as well, but this is going to be applicable only when you're doing when your receipt routing is going to be direct. If it is standard or inspection required, you need to come to this one, and you need to come to supply chain execution. You need to come to inventory management, and you have to select the receipts, receive expected shipments. Here I'm going to put the purchase order. Okay, so I can do the receipting here. Now, as I said, receipting happens in various stages basically. So if you're selecting the receipt routing as direct, it will automatically come to the inventory. There's no put away required. If you are selecting standard delivery, then a put away is required as a separate transaction. If you are selecting as inspection required, then you need to receive the expected shipment first. Then you have to inspect the goods. Once you have accepted the goods, you need to put away those receipts, those goods into your sub inventory. So let's receive the goods first. I'm I'm going to say because I was expecting three quantities. I'm going to say three quantities, create receipt. I can add this packing slip, shipping method, and this information won't be there actually when you're doing the my receipt. That's a straight away. Whereas like if you are um, using this form basically, then you need to this screen, then you need to capture all this information about shipment, what is the packing slip, shipment method, number of chef supplier, packing units, etc. Yeah. So the receipt number 11 was created, and we have created the receipt. And now we will create a payable invoice against that particular receipt. I'm going to match. Okay, number 8. Okay, so 120. I'm just going to match this receipts stating saying, yeah, stating I have received all three goods, and I've created the invoice as well actually. Do the validation process. Okay, so I've created this invoice against that receipt, and now we'll try to return, because the return can happen before the invoice has been created, or it can be created after the invoice has been created. So I've received the goods, and then I found the goods are not in proper shape, or they need to be rejected. So I can do the rejection, or I can return the goods to the supplier. But at the same time, I have to make sure the debit memo is getting created because it needs to reduce your liability. So if my liability today is £120 or PLN, and if I'm returning one item actually to the supplier, which is worth of 40 PLN, then my liability will go down to 80 PLN. Okay, so now let's do the return part, return process. For the return of the goods, you need to come to supply chain execution workbench and click on inventory management, receipts, receiving returns. You can correct the receipts, or you can receive returns. Basically, correct the receipt is basically like, let's say you have ordered like 3 quantities, but you have received only 2 quantities. You can correct your receipts. So I'm saying receiving returns. Now this is mobile. This is Redwood page, um, and it is like a kind of a mobile friendly page. Basically, create return, and these are the options actually which you'll get actually. Like you are returning goods to the customer, organization, returning to inventory organization. So let's say if you are doing the transfer from one inventory org to another inventory org, you are transferring the goods back or returning back to the inventory organization. Receiving is to return to receiving sub inventory basically, and supplier, return to supplier. So this is the one actually which we are looking for. So I'm going to return my goods to the supplier. This is my supplier, and you need to add. Moment you press the add button, it will show you all the potentials or possibilities like through which you can do the return. So it will show you all the receipts for that supplier. So this is the one actually which we have created. So let's select this one, add. And since I want to return only like one quantity, I need to edit this one. You can put the RMA number. Reason is reject. And there is a checkbox over here, is credit debit memo. If you don't tick this box, then it won't create the debit memo. And in 25A version of Oracle Fusion, you will find return to credit. Now that return to credit is a different terminology, like is completely different process, which I'll explain later in the section. We do not have that checkbox because my Fusion version is 24D, whereas this new feature has come up in 25A. So I'm going to select create debit memo. That means I need to create a debit memo to knock off my liability. I'm going to press update button, and then you have to press the submit button. Okay, we'll quickly. The goods won't be going out from the inventory because this item was set as shippable item. That means it will create the shipping lines. It needs to follow the shipment process. And if you click on this one, if you see, there's a shipment line which is still pending right now for order P06. So we haven't shipped the goods out as yet. Yeah, we have. So it's just moving from one location to another, and then now from the warehouse, it's going to be shipped out to the supplier. Then only the purchase order status will change to open. Okay, so I'm going to, some of them are non-mandatory fields. Shipment set, I'm not touching any of these fields. I'm going to say auto create shipment. Okay, so shipment has been created. I need to add some mandatory fields, which is supplier. This is also mandatory because we are going to create the packing document basically, and the shipment method. And now you can do the ship confirm. So the moment you do the ship confirm, your inventory is going to be updated. So let's go back to the inventory and check the inventory. Okay, and if you see the purchase order now, it should open up. Okay, so that means you still need to receive the goods, right? It will allow you to receive the goods because the supplier is going to be sending you the goods. And if you go back to the inventory management, awaiting receipts. So P06, I'm still waiting for this goods to come actually into my inventory because supplier is going to be sending me the replacement. Once you do the receipt, it will update your inventory back. Okay. So this was a complete written process, and I wanted to touch base on this option which is going to be available in 25A version of Oracle Fusion, which is return to supplier for credit. Now, at the time of creating the return, it will ask you return for the credit, and this happens in the circumstances when you return your goods to the supplier. You don't expect them to return to get the replacement back from the supplier. In that particular case, supplier needs to send you the credit note, which can be applied to your invoice. Okay. Right, so one thing I forgot to demonstrate is the debit memo. Debit memo was created actually when you're doing the return. So let's go to the payable workbench, come to invoices. If you click on invoice, you will see the debit memo has been created for one good, one item which was returned to the supplier, which was around 40 PLN. Now, if you see the invoice number, the way the invoice number has been created is the first few characters are going to be receipting. So because we have created the receipt number as 11 and then the running sequence number which is 1003. So if you just click on this debit memo, it with the description will be automatically generated. Okay, and the invoice group is created as 11111003, and even the invoice number is going to be kept as same. Okay. So if you see on the document category, debit memo invoices, and the voucher number is going to be created because the document sequencing was created on this document category. So the voucher number sequencing is going to be specific to that particular document category. Okay. Hope you liked my session. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.